Hi, I'm Ben, and today I'm going to teach you how to make a HUD. Yay! Okay, so first thing, I've already created a script. I'm using Sublime Text 3 with LSL. To get that, I think it's Control-Shift-P. Yeah, Control-Shift-P, package, install, and you just look up LSL and well, it'll be there in the list anyways, and you just install it, so that's pretty easy to do. God, I hope my audio's okay. Okay, so once you create a script, you just write anything you want, like tpgate add hud.lsl, and that's what I'll be making today. So first thing first, you want to start off with the basic events, which is, well, state entry, which would be default. And that's the beauty about LSL plugin, because it comes up with the event right here. So that's what we want to do, is state entry. And I like to button these up a bit so they're not taking up too much script space. Okay, so we've got that basic down. What we also need is a touch event. Just button that up, and in here will be if. Oh, first off, need to define a owner. We need to store the owner as a key owner. So whoever touches the HUD will be the owner, which obviously, but it's good practice for security reasons. So owner equals LL get owner, and there you go, it's already highlighted, so just semicolon that off. Now come down here, so if LL detected key equals, you want to do a 0 because it's the only person touching it, equals space owner, and then you want to do some logic, but first, dialog stuff here. First, we gotta define some variables, which I like to put right up at the top. So, integer lchan, which would mean local channel, and then because the listen comes with its own integer key, so you can close it later, I like to store that as well. So integer glc, which will mean whatever. You'll see in a minute. Now I'm just going to come down here, and you can see it's you kind of see what I'm going with. This is actually for another HUD for the drivers, and I kind of screwed up on the code, I think. Oh no, this is for the old TP gate, that's right. Okay, so the HUD is right here for the drivers. And this is the code that I want. Actually. So, if whoever touches it is the actual person, we set up a random channel number. And all this right here would actually put it up into the high range of numbers, so not to interfere with the ones close to 0. Like Good Talkie listens on channel 3, 4, and 5, as well as 11, 12, and 13. Don't know why. Don't really care. So having this algorithm right here, we make sure that we're up in the high range and not to interfere with anything that's down close to the user listen area, close to 0. So not to interfere. So now what we want to do is actually open this listen with glc equals ll listen, and we want to define the channel. String name can be nothing. key ID. Now this is where we want to listen for the owner or whoever touches the perm. And message can be nothing because we're going to define a lot of messages, a lot of options in the dialog, so we want to leave that blank as well. And as you can see here. So now what I like to do is say this. You know the text that's in the dialog right above the buttons? Well, that's where this is going to come in. I like to define it separately so not to take up too much space. So please select a option. Whoops, if I can type properly. Now, sometimes depending on how dynamic you want your menu to be, like you can define all the buttons right in the function itself, or you can do it as a list, new buttons, like that, and you can do it right here, like exit, reset script. And I'm just going to show you the basics right now. Dialog. Now this is where we define the person to give this dialog to, and in this case it would be the owner, so we just do owner. String would be what we already put, say this. Buttons would be the new buttons. And integer chat channel, whoops, would be lcham because we've already defined that right at the beginning. So there's that done. So we drop down and we add a listen event. Listen. I just like to make these short because to save on script memory. Whoops. And button that up. So now this is where we process all of the listens. So if I like to do this because even though we're listening on the one channel, sometimes scripts can derp and they process from another device that's supposed to be listening, like channel 0. Even though it hasn't done it lately, I still like to define it just to absolutely make sure. So we're going to listen on that. So any other channels any other messages that come in from another channel won't get processed, even though this script's not listening to any other channels. And just to be, now this is where I want to make sure that whoever's talking on the channel is the actual owner, so ID equals owner. And this is where the fun part comes in. You remember the GLC right up here? And it's for the listen. Well, this is where you can then close it off. Close the listen because we don't need it anymore. So LL listen, remove, and then GLC. So that closes the listen in the channel so that any other data that comes in on the same channel, even if it's by mistake, won't get processed. So now this is where we process these buttons right here. And because we've already closed the listen, so the dialog can't work anymore, let's do if message equals exit and close that off because there's no reason to process when someone presses exit. But what we can do is like LL say channel 0, that way it will speak in public for everyone to hear, and you just do like dialog closed, and now show up in regular chat, but we don't need it. So now if message equals reset, And this is where we can reset the script in case anything derps. Just like that. But of course, I gotta go further with this, so what I like to do is put this as list default buttons. That way I can reuse them wherever I want. So just copy this to there, and blammo bammo. Now what you see that pops up every time I save actually sends it to my server, so I got a backup of it. So that's the basics of a dialog menu. Now we get into the nitty-gritty. So as you can see here, I'm gonna just copy and paste all that because that's my actual HTTP stuff. I don't need this. Now because the gate system is actually using TP-Landing as an extra string for the URL. Here I'm going to define it as TP HUD. TP gate HUD. That way I can organize it in the PHP. And here's the code that sends it off, so I'm just going to put that there. Yeah, that's right, list query. That just turns, this just turns a list into a JSON. So if let me do it here just to show you. Let's say URI equals get camera. Well, this function here would then turn this into URI get camera, and it's actually good for passing data. JSON's actually really good for passing data from one network source to another over a network like the internet, because you can pass almost any kind of data you want in JSON. And that's what we'll be doing today with this. So actually I gotta define a string URI. So what I just did was make sure if UI is empty, I just set it as setup, so when we put it into the JSON, it'll be like that. So when the server receives it, oops. Actually, let's start doing this right now. UI equals so if d URI equals setup, do setup logic here. So how my system actually works on the PHP is that it receives JSON and puts it into an array, which is all defined right up here. I am actually using LSL PHP framework, which does a lot of the hard stuff for me, so it makes development a whole lot easier. I should not be smoking when I'm on camera. Smoking's bad for ya. So that's all set up, that's ready to go. Now what we want to do is add a button to this. So new buttons equals list add sim. Down here we want to do if message equals add sim. Now this where I would just put stuff right in. So let's do this. Add sim. And nothing for the query because we're not passing data to the server. So now do that. I'm gonna actually boot up SL. Fuck it, we're gonna have a smoke. So while Second Life is loading up, we're going to need to define this right here, all of this. But I'm not going to copy and paste it because that's stupid. Instead, actually, I just need to check one thing. It's response. Okay. HTTP response, not request, because request is actually data coming in. What we're doing is sending data out and waiting for a reply back. So that's where that's what response is for. So I'm going to just button all these up a little bit. Yeah, that's it. So what we did here is we're sending add sim to the server. And we're sending it to the server to the URL, which is right up here. HTTP list, you want to define that, which for me would be put certificate true because I'm actually using SSL through Let's Encrypt, which is completely free. Verbose means, you know how sometimes with scripts you get that stack heap warning? Well, this actually if this is set to true, that's what will trigger it. So I set it to false, so it won't trigger. For some reason, there's a boo-boo right now with that, so that's why you keep getting stack heap warnings, even with the systems, because they don't define this in the header. So by default, this is actually set to true. So you're always going to get those stack heap warnings if what's being sent out is larger than what is default set to, like 64 characters, I think it is. So if you're sending data past the limit, you're going to get stack heap warning. So you want to set this to false. Define it and set it to false. That way, if you're sending more than allowed, you won't get the stack heap warning. And this is just to tell the server that what's coming in is actually a JSON and not a text or a query, so it knows how to process properly. Or like Laravel will actually already know, it will look for this and process properly. But if you're raw coding it, you might want to actually check what you're bringing in. So you can actually define that with like oh god, I can't remember off the top because I have used Laravel for so long now. But if you know how to do that in PHP, then have fun. But I like to define it just so Laravel knows what's coming in and it doesn't have to guess. So once we send it off to the server, what I should do right now is add sim. So come down here, if DURI equals add sim. I'm not going to do any logic right now, but what I will do is ret equals D. Let's just throw back all the input that this script sends. So if RID equals, and just scroll up here and get this HTTP because that's the unique key that this request is assigned to. It's for better organization. So now we don't really have to deal with this because this will, if your server's online, it will return 200. This is just for the header, but we don't want that because we'll return a body, and this is what we want. That's because this will return as part of the body in a JSON format. So what we want to do is define that, is to get that. So JSON equals body. I think that's how it goes. Yeah. Oh, Unescape. That's right, Unescape. We want to unescape it because sometimes it'll have the slashes, like slash URI slash semicolon slash add sim slash quote, like that. So we want to get rid of these slashes for better processing. So LL unescape, and you see it right there on the list, and we're going to unescape the body. That way it's actual pure JSON for the LSL processor to process. So if LL JSON value type, we want to check the value type to make sure it's not invalid. So JSON in the list here would be URI, because we're sending that, is not equal to JSON invalid. So if it's not invalid, if URI is there as a key, because JSON is key value, like key equals value kind of thing, we want to make sure that URI is in the place so it's valid. So now we can do string URI equals LL JSON get value JSON, and then the list would be URI. So now if URI equals add sim, we can process the logic right here, like LL say sim added. So now if I save and copy all of this and then put it into a HUD in Second Life, content, new script, select all of that and then paste and then save. Click it, see how it come up, reset, exit, and add sim, and it did nothing. Why did it do nothing? Okay, well that's weird. It sort of did something, but whatever. It actually does work. I just have to go through it and fix it somehow. Oh, because it... Duh! TP gate. Forgot, because the URL is TP gate. So I see it said sim added. Just in case you didn't see that, okay? Sim added. So that actually works. So that's basically the basic of making a HUD and sending data to a website. If you need any help, you know how to get a hold of me, Vin Kelly, resident. Or you can get me on YouTube in the comments below. I hope you enjoy this video, and I hope you learned something new about Second Life scripting language. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!